Hello, everybody. This is Owen Goyetche, joined by Josh X, and it's a pleasure to be here with you, brother. I'm so excited to finally begin to create some content, and I wanted to begin creating content through a wonderful discussion with someone that is a huge inspiration to me, in the form of Mr. Josh X. And I'm just very excited to be here. And without further ado, I think we're just going to get right into it. So, Josh, if you wanted to just explain to me your story and kind of your area of expertise that is most aligned with your heart, like just let the people know who you are, and yeah, just
Yeah, from a very young age, I became aware of my surroundings. So I started to just investigate probably around the ages of 7, 8, 9. The first thing that I started to look into and change was my food. It just didn't seem right. I never enjoyed the idea of the fact that I had to consume animals to sustain my body. So I started to take these foods out of my diet. I started to take myself off meat, dairy, eggs, etc. Um, Going through that process, of course, the family have their worries. When the family's not necessarily aligned with the choices that you make, especially at such a young age, it can be labeled as an eating disorder. But I was just looking for something that felt right for me. And obviously, growing up in the world of commercial foods, it was hard to navigate around. As we've grown older and commerce has got better at shipping foods to us, we get access to so many more different types of real foods that we never used to. So by the ages of 12, 13, I got myself into fitness, and really I needed something to focus my energy and attention in. I had so much of it. So the only thing that I could see bettering myself for my body, my mind, and my spirit was embarking on this fitness journey. So I faked my age to join the gym at the ages of 12, because you had to be 14 at that time. And from the ages of 12 until 28, I didn't have a day off the gym at all. So I had a journey understanding food systems, how I felt, how I looked, and what I responded to best. And really, my findings were my body's primary source of fuel was glucose. And when you're trying to put in foods that aren't essentially close to this fuel, the body has stress and disease trying to break these down to then make a usable form of fuel. So I started to try these diets, such as a whole food, plant-based diet with cooked food, which totally changed my whole perception on life. It brought a next level of clarity than having any type of foods that were designed to be stored for a long period of time. They had shelf life. They weren't necessarily living foods. And for most people, I would say, if they haven't experienced a whole food plant-based diet, it's not restrictive at all, but it will take your consciousness, it will take your body to a next level of experiencing within inside yourself. I know that we kind of got off the tangent on myself here, but would you like me to carry on here, or would we go into these other diets as we progress?
yeah, I think well naturally this conversation is just going to flow as it needs to. So I wanted to add on to your point there because it's very interesting because in this modern day world, I go to the gym myself personally. Right now I'm not doing any building. I just go there for the sauna right now. I'm in more of like a cleansing and balance stage right now, and then I'm gonna get myself to a point where I'm back feeling very good, balanced, make sure all my levels are good in all of my vitamins and minerals, and then I'm gonna go into building. But right now, what I've noticed through being at gyms it's only been a year since I started going to the gym. I never had it before. But it's just very interesting because there's this belief system in society that, especially with men, but women as well. I mean, it's everyone. The gym is something that's quite common. And you see that the methodology of that is typically these complex programs. You have to get the right amount of fat, protein, carbs, all of these things, and it's very complex. So to hear the way that you just described it there was a very natural, like just playing with your senses and understanding what feels best for you in that moment, and going against the grain, really, because you see everyone with these protein shakes and having the broccoli, chicken, and rice, all these types of diets, and people believe it's the only way to do it. So the fact that, I mean, obviously you can tell now you have quite a bit of mass on you, and to my understanding, you're primarily raw fruit-based diet at the moment, or
Yeah, it's a fruit base. I really like to experience, so I know, because through belief you're never going to know anything. So I've experienced what it's like to be raw for 3 years. I've experienced what it's like to be fruit based for 3 years. I've experienced what it's like to be whole food plant based for 3 years. So now I try not to, because for me the most important thing is freedom, is
absolutely, brother.
liberation from the mind. So I don't let any attachments come into space, but I have this base
Yeah,
that is a whole food plant-based diet,
absolutely.
and then predominantly raw, because I know that it makes me feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, because I find in this community of, information with, the raw vegans and the fruitarians, even breath area, like this whole, like area of the internet and information that exists. There's a lot of pressure, I find, and there's a lot of restriction. And my number one thing that I've noticed with all of this is that so many people are tying in their trauma with the lifestyle. So they're using it as some escapism form. They want to be different. They want to be better than others. They have this higher mental hierarchy, this that a lot of people don't even understand is happening in the moment. But it's just what I process from digesting information from certain people, the way that they express themselves. And I think that in reality, we cannot have this level of pressure, but rather a level of understanding with what we want to do for ourselves, with what we want to provide to ourselves, what we want to use as our source of fuel, our source of energy. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is there's so much pressure with all of this information and all of these gurus that a lot of people won't even step into this level of this area of experiencing, because
Go on, sorry, please.
no worries. Just because there, like I said, there's so much pressure, and there's such a box that it seems like you have to fit into.
That's it. I think through the journey of like identification, through this persona that we pick up, we have, new ideas, and it's changing. But for me, if you observe what goes on within the world, and let's say movements within the world, such as spiritual communities, it's not truly a spiritual evolution. It's not understanding spiritual law and the will of divinity. It's actually moving towards a spiritual program. So they're just creating a spiritual ego through their ignorance of what truly is spiritual. And spiritual itself is, removing concepts and ideas that create friction within inside your psyche or the mind itself. So yeah, that's one thing that I really like to separate myself from. Is it's not something that is set in any way, shape, or form. And if somebody chooses to have a whole food diet but still contain, animal products within it, it doesn't mean that they're not going to live a happy, healthy life. It's just not the absolute optimum. I think the commercial world has brought in so many different types of foods that aren't essentially food. They've been denatured and restructured. And for our body to restructure that and put it back into alignment, it's very tolling and taxing on the body, which causes 99% of the disease we see today.
Absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't have said that better, to be honest. Like, just it's a reoccurring theme, right? It's just this, it's like this invisible pressure that exists through this information. It just comes out with the flavor of the words that the people are speaking. And I really enjoy and appreciate this view from a ultimate like sovereignty, point of view. It's like that's the flavor I get with how you speak. It comes from a really base understanding of sovereignty, and because everyone is on their own journey. It's all their own personal journey. I mean, we're all connected as one, but at the same time, we all have the illusion of a personal experience, right? So yes, it's just I just have a lot of gratitude in this moment, to be honest, because it's just not a common way of presenting information. And this is why I'm very grateful to be connected with you, and why I felt so called to be connected with you, because I know the level of understanding that you have is what the world truly needs to know. And so yeah, with that, again, thank you. And I'm going to go on.
Just as you touched the protein, I know that most people would really like to hear this or need it for the awareness when you're trying to transition to a space. We were talking about the gym, fitness and size, etc. And we have a predominantly goal-orientated fitness industry to say that gains come from protein, you know, and everybody needs a certain amount of protein for a certain size or physique. Now, in my understanding, through the application of my experiences and the knowledge that I've synchronized through time, you know, you can see that the biggest land animals on earth, they don't consume these protein products. You know, we have the rhino, we have the elephant, we have the gorilla. These are all huge animals, and they are plant-based. But when you're consuming protein, our body uses amino acids and glucose to create protein synthesis, which builds new tissue. So we don't actually need to consume protein. Our body makes protein. We need the amino acids. So when you consume animal flesh or a protein shake or anything that, you know, the modern day industry tells you need, your body actually has to break down these complex codes of protein into chains of amino acids and then restructure them onto the body. So when you consume something like a fresh living fruit, for example, you're getting the amino acids and you're getting the sugar, the glucose that you need, which then can be structured easily to assimilate muscle tissue or anything within inside the body. We just don't eat enough for the size that we're looking to acquire within inside the raw food community.
Well, especially how, you know, you touch on this quite a bit in a lot of your other conversations that you have, is the quality of soil, the amount of minerals, the amount of copper in the soil, and just how depleted a lot of our earth is. You know, like a lot of the plain here is very depleted because of the farming and the vigorous ripping of the roots and all of this conventional farming with all of these chemicals and pesticides and just horrible ways of producing food that just don't make any sense. I mean, we know this. I mean, the people who control this world, I mean, they obviously set it up in a way just to be absolutely ridiculous and just completely counters health, you know? So
it's the matrix, though. Would you agree? You know, it's a certain mindset, it's a commercial space. And it's always, when one becomes aware of this, it's inspiring. It gives you the inspiration to separate yourself, to get back to land and to grow food yourself the proper way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more, for sure. It's just the fact that there are so many of us who are still operating within the matrix, right? And we want to do the best that we can. And this is a something that I notice, and I'd like to touch on this because I think it's very important, especially for people who are watching this video who may be plant-based or maybe wanting to be plant-based. You know, just to begin, right? You know, just swap the meat for the chickpeas or things like that. You know, just being simple, or even the tofu, whatever they need to do to transition, right? I mean, we understand the quality of certain foods and what they do to the body, and we know that there's much better alternatives than maybe what the mainstream promotes. For example, tofu. We know soy is horrible for the body, and we know it's not something that promotes health, at least in my opinion, from my research. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I figured so.
Yeah, that's good. I think anything processed itself, once you come to recognize how things are made, the awareness of it naturally it eliminates it from your body, and you don't want to continue to take that. I think it's just small amounts of awareness. There's no real effort needed. You know, it just naturally happens when the awareness is ready to move forward.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that was very well articulated, Josh. Because for me, so I'll just speak about my journey a little bit, so maybe relate to this. So 3 years ago, I decided it was the heat of the pandemic and whatever that all was. But I just remember I was in my aunt's house. I was in the valley here in Nova Scotia. I was down at my aunt's house, and I was actually showing her a video from John Rose. Are you aware of John Rose?
Is he a Freeman?
No, he's John Rose is the man. He's 70 years old. He's like almost 70 years old. He always has his shirt off. He's a fruitarian, talks about solid food vacation, very fit. You must have seen him through your journey. Yeah. John Rose. Let's see if you recognize him.
I didn't think so.
Really?
Unless it's a politician called John Rose.
It's not a politician. Look up John Rose solid food vacation.
Oh, I see him here. Yes, I have. I have seen him.
I figured so.
Yeah.
So I was introduced through John Rose. I don't know exactly when it started for me, but just for example, I was just watching his video at the time. And in this video, he was just speaking about why it makes no sense for us to consume other beings, especially since we can achieve all of the results that we want through not harming these beings, right? I mean, the ego wants to be big and muscular and powerful and strong and better than people. And we believe that we have to consume animals to achieve this. I mean, in reality, we don't even really want to achieve that. That's just an illusion, that fueling the ego, it feels good in the moment, but it's not really fueling the soul, and you're not really providing the amount of value that you could be, which feels infinitely better to adding to the collective consciousness and spreading love to this world. But in that moment, I just remember I was at my aunt's house and I was showing her this video, and I just right then and there I just had a download, and I just realized, I said, I want to go plant-based. I'm just gonna do it. And overnight I did it. I was eating meat every single meal. Every single meal I was eating meat, and I was very sick back then, mind you. I was very sick. I was dealing with a lot of health issues, a lot of chronic health issues, like feeling bedridden most days, horrible acid reflux, horrible fatigue, just a lot of really nasty things that really ruined my adolescence. A lot of it ruined. It didn't actually, because it built me to who I am today, which I'm infinitely grateful for. That's okay for me, because I live a great life now, and I'm healing more and more every day and becoming more and more like myself and connecting to, what's truly important. But yeah, I just remember I made the decision. I said, yeah, I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to go plant-based. And then just right then and there, I did it. And I felt so much better. I felt the symptoms, they went down. I wasn't perfect, but it was much better. And it was just, like you said before, it's just these small levels, these small hints of awareness that come through you every part of the day. So it's like because now I'm at a point now where I go to the grocery store and I know it's like, nope, that's not good for me. That's not going to make me feel good. That makes no sense to put in my body. It's just automatic, right? You develop this over time. So just introducing these tips of awareness into your being is very, very helpful. And I just think that's a great way that you put it across there.
Yeah. And through the experience, that's the knowing that comes with the food shift. So if one's doubting it, you don't need to believe any type of information. Just give yourself a few months of experience and go through the different food groups that are available to you. Like I said, whole food is going to be the absolute foundation for everyone to live healthy. And when people do this, 85-90% of diseases that they have manifest will get better. Then you move from that, you start to eradicate meat and just experience what it's like without it. And then moving from a whole food diet, including cooked food, just experience what it's like to have raw food for a couple of months. And raw food usually contains fruits and vegetables. And then maybe shift yourself to an alignment with a fruit-based diet. Give yourself some time trying fasting, just a juice fast for 5-6 days. And if one is called to, maybe just experience what it's like to have a water fast, which is a great cleanse. And through these systems, you're truly going to know there's going to be no more belief inside of you which food group is the best and where you feel the best. but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stay there. It means you've got the wisdom and the knowledge, you learn how to heal yourself, and then you can sit amongst all of these food groups of where you feel suits you at this particular time in this moment. It's just the path of least resistance. 50% of ailments, minimum, are manifest through negative thinking. Consistently being in a state of internal friction, wishing you could do something else, wishing you did something else, having a desire to change the past, control the future. It's just really not good for our well-being and our presence. It's something that is more than food importance is your mental state and your health.
Entirely. Yeah, I agree with that a lot, for sure. So Josh, I wanted to ask you here, so how do you think that we found ourselves in a place now where the average person pretty much just eats anything that looks appetizing to them, anything that looks like it'd be sweet and tasty and creamy and very stimulating? And why do you think, because you have a belief that, and I actually share this belief as well, I've gone really deep inside of myself, and I believe that the optimal food for human beings is fruit. I mean, it makes so much sense. It processes instantly. It has the glucose that we need. One of our primary, would you say it's the primary energy source within the body?
It is, yeah. And anything else like fructose is converted in the liver anyway and used as a fuel.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I remember, a few weeks ago, I had an experience with some friends, and we just got very deep into conversation, and we just all were very connected with ourselves. And I remember passionately explaining why it makes so much sense to consume fruits, right? Because when you consume a fruit, so for example, if the only reason that we have the vision to see all of these magnificent colors is to I believe, see the beauty within nature, and two, see what's gonna gonna bring great nutrition to us, what's gonna feed us and make us feel vital. I believe that that's the reason why we're able to see these colors. One, appreciate God's gifts, and two, be able to feel fulfilled and feel energy.
It's magnificence, it magnifies sense. So it increases the senses and the attention on these type of food groups. And not only are they pleasing to the eye, they're pleasing to the taste. We live in a world now, because of high fructose corn syrup and the studies that have been based on only this and nothing to do with fruit, that, sugar is bad, and it's the same whether it comes from a fruit or from a sweet. And this is not the case, without going too deeply into things. Sugar, yeast are two predominantly commercial used products in the food industry, and yeast is a fungus, and sugar feeds it. And this goes into the body and creates something called candida. And candida is primarily the seat of every disease that comes to manifest inside our bodies. So to feed it with sugar and to create more of it with yeast, it's just something that seems nonsensical when the awareness is there. And this is why food awareness is so important for those that are looking to make shifts in their own life, for greater experiences within the mind, body, and obviously self, spirit.
Yeah, I'll finish my point just because I feel like it's very important. The fact that you have an infinite loop of abundance when you consume fruit, right? Especially in a thriving environment where we're supposed to be. Say I'm in the Mexican forest. Maybe that's not the right word. The Mexican jungle, right? Means, let's say I go up to a tree and I'm just walking amongst barefoot, and I look and I see with my eyes a bright pink dragon fruit hanging from a tree, right? I think they grow on trees. People. What'd you say? Cactuses, yeah. So I see one on a cactus, and it's glimmering in my eyes, the beauty of it. And so I go over and I eat that dragon fruit. And I eat that, I consume it. It's delicious. It's incredible. It makes me feel so alive, so sweet, delicious, juicy, hydrating, everything that we need, right? And then once I'm done with that, later on, I'll do my work, let the body do what it needs to do. And boom, the amount of seeds that are within that fruit, it's an infinite loop of abundance. You get enjoyment, and then you're spreading vitality across the whole plant. Infinite.
This is why the fruit is defined as something which bears the seed. It's not just what most people believe it is, especially if they're just becoming into this journey. It's everything from peppers to courgettes, tomatoes, avocados. These are all fruits. And the logical thing behind that is that, one, the fruit doesn't need to be picked. It doesn't need to have any interaction with man for it to drop itself effortlessly for you to consume. When you get to the realm of vegetables, you have to cut them. You get to legumes, nuts, and seeds. That's a different story, and I don't recommend everyone to cut these things out of their life, but just to experience what it's like without them is another level of food systems. But, seeds and nuts are designed to be planted. You have this whole thing within inside, I think, the carnivore diet now, where they say plants are trying to kill you, vegetables and things like this, and they're saying the phytates and these anti-nutrients that exist in them. But you'll see there's none of this with fruit. And we're not necessarily living in the areas that we should be to thrive in a fruity environment. Let's say a tropical space, if not subtropical, where, perpetual food is consistently being grown, and you have access to all of these wonderful fruits that you barely or rarely see inside the Western world, which contain, totally different formats and structures than we get commercially. Not only are they commercially fruits, not only are they picked early, which they don't ripen on the tree, they're in cold storage for long times. They might not even ripen. And also the soils that are grown are essentially just being raked time and time again with synthesized nutrients in them, which is an optimum for our health. But I'm not saying that is still not better than buying any commercial products that are for convenience, because of course it's still going to be the best food group.
Absolutely. Josh, I had a question about just like a situation that we find ourselves in. So for example, a lot of people, so I remember you said this in an interview, I think it was either with on the Light Leaders podcast, or it was with Casey with Vegetable Police, but I remember you spoke about this and it just blew my mind, and it just made so much sense to me. So we live in a matrix, as we know, and I would expect most people who are watching this video understand. And so we live in a matrix where people typically work 8 hours a day, and they need the fuel to be able to do that, and then come home and relax. But all they need is just enough energy to go out and do the thing that they don't want to do, which is something that's entirely up to them. If they want to do it, they actually know they like doing, they could make that choice. But a lot of people believe that this is the structure that they have to live their life in, right?
Right.
So with the foods that we find that most people are consuming, I remember that you spoke about the fact that most of our food in the grocery store and the supermarkets and everything are fortified, and they're specifically designed. And it blows my mind, because it just shows you the amount of evil genius that the leaders of this matrix have, the spell that they cast on us, and the way that they're able to keep us going with just the right amount of energy to get done all of their tasks through these foods that are not fit for human consumption, that you mentioned. They contain enough of the synthetic nutrients to keep the body going, but at the same time, it's slowly harming them, which leads them to end up needing prescriptions and doctors and surgeries and all of these things, which feed this karmic loop within the matrix. So if you'd like to touch on that, I think it's very, very important.
Yeah. You see a lot of fruitarians or people that go whole food and really embrace this raw lifestyle. They feel incredible, vibrant, and they've made their shift from the commercial world into this natural space. And this is where it's quite important for people to sort of take in and recognize it's when you stop using commercial food, there was this huge fortification program that went on. We've seen it with the salt, with the iodine, because there was a massive deficiency. And then you have the vitamin D, and this is found in the milk and all the breakfast cereals. You have the B12, which is also found in all these cereals, and they fortify them with iron. It's just essentially this fortification program that's gone on within the Western world is essentially keeping people free of deficiencies or very low deficiencies. In extreme cases, some people will still have severe deficiencies even consuming these foods, but that's usually down to digestion. So yeah, these food systems, they've been carefully designed. So when we remove ourselves from this, we have to also take into consideration that we've lived on a diet that's basically been fortifying, and where is the possibility that we might need fortification from soils that are depleted. Then you have the arguments, with people that say that we must eat meat to get these nutrients. And one of them is B12, because B12 is actually synthesized in the soil from a bacteria that feeds on cobalt. Now, cobalt is so deficient across the soils, so we're not having the production of B12 within our food system. So like 90% of the animals or the livestock actually get fortified with these in their foods. Cows produce B12 in their rumen, but they actually need cobalt. So they're synthesized with cobalt through fortification so they can produce it themselves. But all of the other animals, they are actually fortified with B12. So we can get to around about 4 or 5 years into this diet and suddenly not necessarily feel so good.
Yeah.
And this has been down to deficiencies predominantly with the B12, iodine, and D3, which can be simply remedied by just having this awareness yourself. Now, the iodine we share with our community just to make simple kombu. You boil this kombu, which is a type of seaweed that's very high in iodine, and the water that's left at the end, you pour it into ice cubes and just give yourself 1 ice cube a day. And this is enough to prevent any type of iodine deficiency, and also it contains an array of wonderful vitamins and minerals as well. We've actually had people come to us who have had quite severe goiters, and just 1 cube a day, it just shrinks and reduces it until it was not present anymore. So they're very important things. And vitamin D in England, I'll use it as an example, from October to March, there's no ability to absorb vitamin D from the sun anyway. So through these periods, most people are consuming dairy, eggs, cereals, and things like this, which have been fortified with it. We just need to take a look at what we can do to balance that out. I mean, some people will be fine, but if you're feeling low energy, you're not necessarily vibrating high, and you've been on this plant-based diet and something seems a little bit off, it's just good to check your levels, vitamin D, B, iodine, because then you're going to be sure and you can arrange a certain protocol to fit in with your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because where I am here in Canada and Nova Scotia, it's like almost an identical type of environment to the UK. Like it's very similar. It's typically cloudy. Quite. I don't know if it's very like damp here. There's a lot of moisture here. I don't know if it's like that in the UK, but
not really. It's just predominantly grey. The spraying goes on early most days.
I see one right now outside of my window. Yeah, so it's very similar in the cloud formations, at least the amount of sun that comes in. And I know for a fact, because in the winters, everybody has this winter blues. It's like, it's cold. We're not supposed to be in the cold. We're supposed to be in the sun and the tropics with all of the vibrancy that nature can provide us. But here, everything is dead, and we have to hibernate and stay warm and turn on the fire. All these things that make no sense to do. I mean, something that I've noticed, in my home, there's a heat pump. We have blankets, things like that. Things that are all just simulating what we actually want, which is sunshine and the tropical air and the ocean, and all of these things that we quite literally simulate within this matrix, because we know where we want to be. We know where home is. We know where we're going to be in balance, but we're supplementing it with these artificial methodologies. It's just so interesting to see. And so with that, Josh, I wanted to touch on let's just see here. I was thinking that we could move into, I could just share my personal journey and go into that a little bit more. And just maybe some people will resonate with it. And maybe you can just give me a few tips on my current situation, where I've been before, maybe the reasons that could be causing some ailments and dis-ease, things like that. So I'll just speak about my journey so far, and then I'll just let you chime in as we go on. So yeah, like I said, I started my plant-based journey 3 years ago, and it just happened overnight. I find it's interesting because for a lot of people, that's very difficult. It takes a long time, especially to cut out things like cheese, which I will mention. I did cut out dairy about 2 years prior to that because I had a severe issue with lactose, because I only have one stomach. I don't have four like the baby cow, right? So that makes sense. I'm just a little more sensitive. I guess my senses are just a little bit more aware of what is causing me a lot of harm within the body, which is a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, because cheese is so delicious and has the same brain chemical effects as quite literally drugs. Like more, I forget which drug. I think it's like crack cocaine or something. It's like as a different, like a very simple synthesis that goes on within the brain when you eat these fortified cheese.
As well, sugars. Yeah, I think 10 times more addictive than crack.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to break free from, but you do reap the rewards through the evolutionary process so rapidly that most people's orientation is focused on goals. Let's say, for example, in the gym, people get really inspired when they start to see progress. They start to get lean, they start to see muscles, and it spurs them on more. This is what happens with the food journey. You just start to feel better. Things start to clear up. There's no more fog. It lifts from the mind. You start to have this intuition arise within you. And then, of course, if you continue to apply yourself to this level of truth, it opens up so much opportunity to expand yourself and essentially find yourself on a path of peace and freedom. And it's not only with the internal aspects of mind and the cognitive functions of ego, it actually expresses outwardly onto material plane, where you can live the best life of all your desires in peace and harmony as God, the creator, wants. But we have to do the work. We have to remove ourselves from the theater of conflict externally and internally, for sure.
Brother, absolutely. You got that spot on, for sure. That resonates with me a lot. I quit dairy and gluten 2 years before that. Extreme gut irritants. And what I've realized, like, upon my journey is really that my vessel is so sensitive to things that harm me, that I know are harmful to me. And it was always so annoying to me, because I was like, man, why can't I just be, like, for example, when I go to school, I literally every single day, the amount of anxiety and depression, I want to run away from school, because I thought that this system was normal. I thought that, we're just supposed to go to school to learn things. Why is it so difficult for me? But then as I went on, I got older and learned more. I understood that, this is a system that is literally to brainwash children and give them all these limiting beliefs, and to morph them into this grayscale box that the matrix and society and government and all of the ones above want us to be in, to be operating at, what vibrational frequency they want us to be stuck in, so we cannot rise and do what we're put here to do. But so with that, so overnight I went plant-based. I cut out the meat. I ate meat every single meal, and I loved it. It was so delicious. Eggs, meat, sausage, bacon, all of these things, had them all the time. And I just knew that it wasn't right. And so ever since then, I've been plant-based ever since. It's been about 3 years now. In a month it will be 3 years. And my past, so this isn't very structured, but that's okay, because we're speaking from the heart here, and that's all right. And this is very good information, and it's my first interview, so we're figuring it as we go. So that's okay. But so when I was about 16 years old, I, out of nowhere, just came into a very heavy spurt of illness. So I just remember when I was that age and I was waking up to go to high school, I would wake up and I was so fatigued that I could not get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed. I would try to wake up. It didn't work. I'd fall back asleep. And every single morning I'd have this battle with my mother. God bless her, the most beautiful woman, but she just didn't understand what was going on in that current moment. She was more so within the system and didn't see the higher of the situation there. But I just remember I'd wake up and I couldn't get up. I couldn't get out of bed. I felt so tired. I felt glued to my bed that I could not wake up. I could barely open my eyes. I could barely move my limbs. And I just couldn't get out of bed. And then these symptoms just continued and stacked upon one another, which brought on negative thoughts and self-hate within myself because of all of the disease and discomfort within my body brought on negative mental thoughts. So all of that combined with a very poor diet as well, a lot of processed foods I would eat, the McDonald's, Wendy's, these kind of foods. And thankfully I was always very skinny. I never really gained weight or anything like that. But at the same time, I was absolutely suffering. And so throughout that journey, I did not experience the average childhood, the average youth of growing up and having a lot of friends and going to parties and all of these things that fuel the ego at a young age and feel very stimulating. But really, it's just connecting with people, and that's what we're here to do, connect with people and provide value. Absolutely. So there's good in all of it. But yeah, through that journey, embarked on a lot of sufferings, a lot of really chronic issues, chronic fatigue, chronic acid reflux, chronic just GI tract irritation, constant, just general pain, just a vibration of pain throughout the bodies. And as the years went on, I was just going into so much different information: naturopath, osteopath, chiropractor, holistic healing, all of these different things. I was trying so many different things and different supplements, but what I was not changing was my foundation, the foods that I was eating. I was still eating foods that were causing so much acidosis in the body and mucus and all of these things that were clogging me up, and the blood was not flowing and the overtoxicity was just happening. And I wasn't able to express what I truly was because of the burden of the influx of foods that were improper to my body. So as time went on, just suffering endured for years and years and years. And it got to a point where I quite literally went mentally insane. I have a video that's like an old video that I posted in January of 2019. I remember I was sitting in my room and I was just so sick and so delusional that I had to cry out for help. It was at the point where I was so nervous to talk to anybody, to speak my voice or anything like that, but I knew I had to do something. Do something. So I set my camera down and I just spoke my truth within that moment. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because the amount of love that flooded in from posting the video, all of these people who I thought didn't really care about me. And I didn't think anyone cared about me because I had the illusion that I thought somebody else had to help me in that moment because I was so beaten down, right? And thankfully, people did. They came into my life and helped me, and I needed it. I needed that grounding. I needed that understanding that people did care about me. My parents loved me, absolutely, but I was just a little bit delusional in that moment. I was around them so often that I just thought that maybe they didn't even care because I was still suffering. All of this illusion that comes with these amount of thoughts, the very dark thoughts, it just clouds everything. You don't even understand what reality is. But so as the years go on, where I find myself today is I would say I'm a very spiritually connected person. I'd say I have a relationship with God and I love him very much and he loves me very much. And it's this very free flowing life. And I have beautiful people coming in and out, and just I'm learning a lot. I'm connecting to myself more and more. And where I find myself now is I feel that I'm spiritually sound, mentally sound, energetically sound, but the physical is what is missing, because I am almost certain, because of all the cleanses I've done. And we talked about this when you were on your live. I made a comment speaking about whether to cleanse or revitalize, and explaining what my symptomology was at the current moment. And you said, I remember you said to me, you said, don't worry about cleansing right now. Worry about building back what you need to build back, because I have a level of awareness now where it has to be deficiencies, right? Because I've done cleansing, I've done all of these things. I eat a whole food diet, and that whole food plant-based diet, that's where I'm at right now. And so it's just really, coming to that understanding and this, all of this clarity. So I just have a feeling that I must be deficient in a few things because I'm still not experiencing the energy that I want.
Have you had blood tests?
That's something I need to go do that. I need to go do that. So I have, like, a long time ago, but I didn't understand what to look for, that was the thing. And that's a long time ago. I don't even think I have those.
The symptoms that you're describing, they could be married together with B12 and D3 for sure. For sure. And people get them on a meat-based diet as well, probably more meat-based people are deficient in it. But the thing is with vitamin B12, it can be stored in the body for like 3 to 10 to 12 years even. But it just depends on the level you have and how much your body can actually recycle and produce it itself from the cobalt minerals we get. But again, they're so deficient that we really, we're really in that stage now where we're navigating the realm, aligning this perfect diet that leaves one feeling so liberated and high vibrational, but without deficiencies that the Western world has captivated and been producing the supply and demand for so many years. With chronic, you said you had chronic fatigue. I don't know if you're aware, but my sister was in bed for 14 years with chronic fatigue, and she's actually in a wheelchair. She was so debilitated. And the thing that brought her remedy, she went to a whole food plant-based diet and was just experiencing, she was much better than she was, but she still had to sit, lie in bed for hours and hours upon time.
Exact same as me, yeah.
Fruit is what really shifted everything. She went on a big juice fast, and then she just stayed on predominantly fruit. And I think it took her about 8 months to a year, and then everything just changed. She was up dancing, singing, she's got an incredible voice, and she was being signed at the age of 14 to make records. And then she developed this illness or disease. So now she's back and she's just totally shifted. So I would just say, get your levels checked. If they are balanced, then just move towards a higher fruit-based diet for a certain period of time. It's not necessarily the most perfect diet for someone living in Canada. Commercial food is not the same, so you just kind of got to do what you have to do here. And there are obviously a few different methods that you can do, and like intermittently fasting. When I say intermittent fasting, I don't mean how modern day has produced it. I mean just periodically through the month, just throw in a few days of fasting just to let the body distill, digestion, let blood flow go to the cells and promote healing that way. And in water fasting, for me and the experiences that I have seen, it is an ultimate purifier. It is. But what we don't want to do, if we've got a clogged up lymphatic system, we may have already gone through processes of elimination and we haven't necessarily got a fully functioning lymphatic system yet, is to just go on the transitional food system and just work your way through the diets as we mentioned earlier. So if you're coming from this whole food diet, just move to raw, and then move to fruits, and then move to a little bit of juicing and fasting, and just take your time with it. We don't want to look for something now, because we only exist in this moment of now. And if there's no, sensory perception of wellness, then we don't want to cause any agitation within the mind. We want to just, come to a level of acceptance, surrender these thoughts, and do what we know to be best in this moment. That's all we can do. We can't change what we know to be best. And as long as we apply our truths to what we know to be true, we're on a path of evolution, mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely. Absolutely, brother. And last year, actually, I did a raw program. I say program, but yeah, I just let myself experience just raw foods only. And mind you, it was a lot of fat, like a lot of fat. I remember mostly what I would do is I was working at a car dealership at that moment in time. I was doing videography there. And I remember I would bring a whole like big box of dates there. And I would buy a jar of tahini, and I would literally just all day just eat the dates with the tahini. And I know that like sugar and fat is not a good combo. I've heard that it's like for food combining, that can be quite confusing and a little bit taxing on the body. I mean, obviously not compared to like a McDonald's, which is also doing that food combination. But I remember, yeah, I do that. And typically my meals were, because it's the satiation, right? That you miss with these types of diets, because you're so used to the amount of salt and the amount of fat and the amount of all these different things.
And I think also in the easily assimilated digestive process, you lose that bloat that you would normally have eating the other foods. So you don't necessarily feel as full, but that was not fullness, that was bloatingness. And you don't get that back, it just tends to be so light and you lose the bloating and distended stomach. So that's just something to look out for people that are transitioning. Just eat more until you balance yourself, and there you'll get rid of the cravings that come along with it as well.
That makes a lot of sense, Josh, because that's the thing when most people think they're full, but truly they're just overeating. They're like quite literally stretching their stomach out. And that's actually something that I'm kind of bad for myself. I mean, I'm not like saying like, oh, I shouldn't eat this much. Like I'm 6'3", like I should be eating a lot of food, right? But like I'm aware of that. But I do have a history, especially with like emotion, because I find food and emotions are very intertwined with a lot of people. Like when they need to cope with something stressful, they go to food, right? They go to something very stimulating, something that's going to ground them, calm them down. For me, I found, like potatoes, like white or sweet potatoes is very good for me. Like if I need something like that, like I'll just use those. I like having potatoes are really nice.
Yeah, they got that comfort aspect to it. It's probably one of the closest things you can get to any type of fast food, and you can eat it healthily yourself. You don't need to add in oil. You can just literally air fry them or just put them in the oven, and they'll come out just the same. You just got to learn the art of plant-based cooking, because everything that you do with whole food and real food, you're talking Michelin star flavors here. This is how they would use in a restaurant. So when you're consuming normal foods that just like takeaways or takeouts, I don't know what you call them in Canada, you're just having a created food for masses. Instead of having, like, for example, if I make a curry, I will crack a whole coconut. I will take the coconut out. I will blend the coconut with mango, with dates, with tomato, with coriander, with lemon, maybe a bit of ginger and turmeric. Okay. And that would be a base for whatever you wanted to put in the curry. But that itself, you're never going to taste a flavor like this, even if you went to the most authentic Indian restaurant, because they're using sugar, bay leaves, spices, and you're not having this full flavor. So you actually, when you transition, if you ever tried to go back, it would not be something that you would actually do, because it's such a poor flavor system that you've been used to that you haven't experienced these heightened senses from real food.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that, brother, because like when I go to, so quite recently, one of the biggest things I've done for myself that has taken a lot of my dis-ease load, like for example, I haven't got a cold or a flu since I've done this. So I took out the vegetable oils, right? These toxic oils that I hope people are aware of, because they're in everything. They're so inflammatory. They cause so much disease and clog up the lymphatic system.
It's the first thing that breaks it down is your lymphatic system, which is designed to eliminate toxins.
Yeah. Well, that's saying something, of course. Yeah. So ever since that, because I was aware of seed oils and what they did to the body for quite some time, but I just didn't want to give them up. I loved my Lebanese takeout too much. Like I would always get, like for a plant-based person, like Lebanese cuisine is great because most of it is plant-based. So I would, I love the hummus and the baba ganoush and rice and all of these nice veggies and falafel and all of this. And it's like
Yeah.
very delicious, and you can simulate it at home easily. You can do, I make my own hummus all the time, and it's delicious. It's great. It's all whole food. It's phenomenal. But when you're so used to this, it seems difficult to take away at first, but then when you realize the effects that it's having on your body, that I realized because I was still having frequent sickness, and it didn't make any sense because I eat so healthy compared to the average person, right? Like some people think I'm crazy the way I eat, right? Because I cook every meal. I use only, like, I do still use oil, and that's something that I'd actually like to touch in a moment. But like the food that I make I know everything that's in my food. I make every meal. I only buy certain whole foods from the grocery store, and people see that, and they see that I don't eat certain things. I don't eat cheese. I don't eat meats. I don't eat pizza. I don't drink soda or anything like that everybody else tends to do. And so normally I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't do these things. People think I'm crazy. Like I'm just this disciplined, like incredibly like disciplined, like monk type of like person.
And you'll get that question, which is how do you enjoy yourself?
Exactly. Yeah, it's so interesting. And what the reality is I'm probably enjoying myself, like not to compare, but I have a great life, like I just have a few things that I still need to clear, but other than that, I'm blessed, brother, like truly. And I'm very grateful. I'm always really grateful for all the food that I make and the people in my life and the knowledge that I can share, because I'm thankful to be able to provide some of the information that I've picked up on through the years and spread it to the people I love or people that I meet in the sauna or whatever like that. And it just being of service, nothing lights your heart up more than being of service and being full of love and value.
It's one of the sacred secrets to, the laws of manifestation is understanding spiritual will and spiritual law. Essentially what you're doing naturally is not, let's use a biblical script. You're essentially reaping what you sow.
Yeah.
And you're putting out love, so you're going to receive love. And if you put out negativity, you cheat, you hate, it's all going to come back to you. But people don't realize there's actually an instructional way to learn spiritual law and your relationship to life. But what you're going through now is a process of it naturally, spontaneously manifested within you. And your observations are going to pay you tribute in a few years' time, where you're going to understand dynamically the relationship between yourself, your actions, and the world's presented to you and how you exist within it. Because everyone is on a different level of experience, is a different level of awareness, a different level of consciousness. The mainstream common working class who are involved in a 9 to 5 in a matrix, for them there is nothing else. The people that experience what we're sharing is a delusional bit of information for them, because they've not touched or tasted any heightened experience like clairvoyance or telepathy, intuition. The intuition that we experience just when we elevate ourselves beyond that which was previous. So just changing a food system or applying something which to be true, but you're not applying yet, you're going to actually liberate yourself from thoughts which are causing, excessive pressure, because you should be doing something better. Not only are you liberating yourself from the thoughts, you're actually opening a doorway for expansion. And through this expansion, it comes heightened senses like intuition, telepathy, clairvoyance.
It's true. I began to experience these things, and like even like kind of like psychic abilities, even like being able to predict like what's going to happen, like or even like having dreams where you have a dream and then it happens like within the future, like within even the next day or even weeks or months ahead. It's like it's absolutely incredible, and that's just what I really wish for everyone to experience in this life, even if they're not gonna cut out meat or cut out all these things and only eat fruit and meditate every single day. I just hope that people can get a glimpse of what is possible in this reality, because it is life-changing. It is a beautiful experience when you're able to see what God and the universe and spirit and the ether, whatever you want to call it, is showing you every moment. You just have to tune into that channel. And
life is for you consistently. But when you're down in a low vibration, you see life is just going to continue happening, and it's happening to you. It's not working with you. But you have these subtleties that exist inside the subconscious, and it's always consistently picking out negativity. You always believe yourself not to be good enough to experience, if someone, let's say someone sat there and they have a slight resentment and they're looking towards someone who's big in the mainstream right now. Let's say like Andrew Tate. Everybody at the moment knows who this man is. He's used his abilities to create a huge amount of wealth, and it hasn't come difficult for him. But not only is he a matrix man, he's also has the ability to see the matrix for what it is, but is also practicing spiritual law. He's speaking unto the universe. He's asking for things that then he will receive. But what you do is you stamp the subconscious, and you exist and continue with the gratitude and knowingness that this is coming to you. And anything that you've ever done in your life, you know that if you give it a certain amount of attention, let's say, what was one thing that you enjoy doing, or was a goal-orientated thing for you in your younger years, maybe the past few years?
A goal-oriented thing for me in my younger years. Yeah. I think really it was just, I just wanted to be someone that helps people, really, like just that simple. So just like,
so each day that you existed, an aspect of you was focused on learning information to be able to empower yourself with this knowledge. And observing this, you see so many different micro connections that are allowing you to this space that you're existing in now. But there would not have been a day past without this having a focal point. Am I right?
of course,
This was a strong desire. Yeah.
Of course.
So that imprinted in the subconscious of yourself. And that subconscious, with that focus and energy, is shifting the way life is presented to you, and also pulling in energy and pulling in experiences for you as it's becoming manifest in the external. So you use these same techniques on just small things. Affirmations, for example, they work. They're very real. You speak yourself to the universe. You don't try to coerce the universe in a way where you're going against the will of divinity. For example, if you had a partner and you wanted her to treat you a certain way, and you're speaking to the universe, you ask her to love you. This is going against the divine will. You ask for somebody, if it is not this partner, I wish to find the lady or my partner that is mine by divine right, and naturally keep that soul here in this heart with a focal point. And almost instantaneously, events, you watch out for leads, whether it pops up on the TV, whether someone's walking past you and you hear certain things, and you learn this relationship to this manifestation. And honestly, it is so very real. Everyone can use it. You can ask for anything you want, anything you desire, as long as it's in alignment with spiritual law, which is the law of divinity. You don't want to change the course of anyone else's will, but you instruct this complex electromagnetic universe to provide you with what you see fit and necessary for the next part of your journey. And I think most people miss this because they want it to be true, but they don't believe it. So they're actually missing on that true connection. And this is one of the things the Bible is. The Bible is an instruction for this. You just have to be able to seek in it, listen to it with a different format than the normal mind or the normal trained mind, and see the beauty in it. Knock and the door shall be answered. Ask and you shall receive. What does this mean? The here lying within this book is an instruction, but people don't use it. Speak unto the universe. Ask for what you desire, and you shall receive it.
It quite literally is that simple, isn't it? And
It really is. But you have to have faith. And this is this thing the Bible speaks of again, is faith. You have to have faith in the words that you speak. It's like abracadabra. I create as I speak. This was given to us through childhood indoctrination programs, but we don't know the true message behind it. And any type of occultism or esoteric teachings, the art of magic, has been bastardized and tainted with devil worship. And truly, it's just instructions on how to create the best life for yourself and experience all of your desires without causing any conflict within or without. This is what we all wish to do. We all wish to just be happy. And as you were speaking earlier on, just a second ago, I wanted to say most people experience what we're speaking of, a level of freedom and happiness and joy in a new aspect or a new part of a relationship with a partner.
yeah.
And their attention is so fixated on the partner that the mind is not throwing its normal processes at you. You're not worried about anything because this is all that matters. Because you're so focused on pleasing, on creating a nice environment and a foundation for this relationship to be built upon. People call that love. It's not love, but it's the closest thing to love. You're experiencing freedom from mind. And this is what I wish for everyone, is to be liberated so they can feel what it's like to lose the weight of the world, to lose the weight of the mind, to let go of the expectations and all the identity and the characters that we built up, all the fear, all the anxiety, all this depression. Because truly nothing matters. And what matters is your happiness. And this happiness, it lies within you. It's a choice. But have you come to the level of awareness yet where you can make the right choice, which is the righteous? If we can get ourselves to this space, we have the ability and all the functionalities within our awareness to create an absolutely perfect environment for living, and every moment is joyous. And this is what people were trying to teach, like Christ, Buddha, Krishna. Even in the Freemasons, people have bastardized the Freemasons. Every one of these aspects of teachings is to know the self, to know what powers you have, and to harness these powers. It's so simple.
I'm really just lost for words and filled with gratitude, because on my journey, especially most recently, absolutely transcended into this channel of consciousness. And all of the things that you're speaking of are thoughts that have been within me, and understandings I've been trying to come to. And it really is that simple. And that's what all that people need to understand, really, is it is that simple, because it is always there. And it's just all about your choice, your free will. You can choose to suffer, and you can choose to thrive and connect with that infinite love and abundance and sovereignty. And it's so funny that most of us say, oh, I just want to be happy. It's a very common phrase used on this planet.
I will be happy when I achieve this. This will make me happy, but it's not the case. Happiness is in this moment, and happiness is only found free from thinkingness. And everyone is okay until they think about it. And then they identify with the thoughts, and then the emotional body picks up, and you experience all these levels of suffering, which is essentially your own illusions, your demons that need to be recognized. You see, the words are very important as we go through life. If we can learn the words and just see them and have a relationship with them, demon is demon. D is to remove, mon is mono, which is one. So demons, which has been depicted in all of these ancient arts as dragging us into hell, they remove you from oneness, which is just a thought, a form of thought which exists as an illusion. That is something which isn't happening now, but is causing instability within yourself. We need to recognize. Recognize is recognize. Cognitive function exists in the mind. So you're realigning the way the mind is interpreting life. So once one is conscious, you have the ability to reshape and shift your own personal identity, the way that the ego or mind is interpreting life. So you don't have these thoughts of oppression, thoughts of fear, thoughts of anxiety. You're learning these functions as you go on. And as something arises, some suffering, this is actually an opportunity to expand. We don't want to embrace it and give too much attention and then suffer with it. We just want to recognize it, accept it as a program that used to exist and run, but is no longer welcome. So we would cast the demon out by having a new level of recognition and thus liberating ourselves from the ideas. This is where the Christ, the Immaculate Conception comes in. Because these words were an absolute aspect of my own awakening. I deciphered the English language right down to the alphabet. The English letters are essentially hieroglyphs, instructions, and every word that's formatted has its own teaching. So they play a huge role. And as our awareness picks up of them, we naturally embark on this journey of words, most of us do. And we realize our true potential, the capabilities that we have. You see, the realize is to realize, it's to see with your realize. Sometimes you analyze something, which is analyze, and to be anal is to continually look and seek. So the analyze is to analyze. And there lies the significance within language. Anyone listening, write down the significance. Every time you see a word, just put a dash and you'll see what it says. It's the sign, if I can see.
So how can someone because I've met many people, many different types of people on very many different parts of their journey. And I find what is most commonly happening is that people find themselves in a place where they're so used to a certain structure. Their day scheduled a certain way because of the authority above them. So either they have signed up to because I'm 23, right? And most my age find themselves in form of education, so university or college, and then some even have either or on top of those responsibilities, they have a job. They typically work this job from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's typically what it is. Sometimes it's different. And I find when I speak with people, they always are, because we're sovereign human beings, and I think we all understand that at a certain level, and sometimes it just takes a day in nature or a very present conversation to just remember that. But what would you say, Josh, for the person who seems to be blending in? I mean, just because of the societal action that's happening, seems to blend in with that. But again, like I said, everyone knows that they're truly sovereign, and everyone is unique in their own beautiful way. They all have something to give, and they all have something very special and unique about them. And I know this through connecting with other people and other beings. And so what would you say? Just some practical steps for somebody who finds themselves in a life that seems like it's looping, and they seem like they have to supplement their happiness through watching, TV shows or Netflix or going out to the bar to just loosen up and experience some actual emotion and intimacy, things like that, what would you recommend to somebody who finds himself in a loop like that?
Have they begun to question the loop?
Yeah, most of the time, yes.
Because if they haven't, and yet they just have this disappointment with the life that they're living, there's no real true questioning regarding the way or the format they're existing, and there's not really much you can say to someone in that space. If you have the ability to be intuitive and pay attention to the intuition and the desires that exist in here, then it's about time that you paid attention and acted upon them, because there's a slight desire manifesting in you to shift life through the awareness that has risen within you. Because the outer world, if it's out of balance with the inner world, you're going to be in internal conflict with strong desires of wishing to change, which is essentially going to bring someone to a space of suffering and unhappiness, which this isn't what we want for everyone or anyone. So it's to listen to this inner tutor. Absolutely. Let go of fear and start to embrace faith, and you will watch everything change. But again, that journey of faith, no one truly has faith until they've experienced that which brings faith to them. So most people, before now, maybe 6 years ago, I would have given a great format. I would have said, look, the first thing you need to do is embrace food, shift your food, move to a whole food plant-based diet. If you can go raw, this is going to elevate you and inspire you, give you much more energy, and also take away any excessive thoughts. Because also excessive thoughts can come from eating and consuming animal flesh, because memory is stored in the tissue. You're having stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol that you're consuming, and you're not necessarily knowing why. But there's just this underlying frustration, anger, aggression that exists within you. So it's really good to shift there. That is a start, and this engages you onto a new path. And just by, like I said earlier, this shift in application, this is why our logo is truth with application, because what is truth without applying it? Again, it's a belief. It's no wisdom and there's no knowing. And then from there, be intuitive and continue the intuition, give that your attention and let it take you on the journey. And know that everyone and everything that appears within inside your experience is for you. Notice that the leads that are generated from the ideas that you have. Notice people come into your life. Notice people leave your life. Stop trying to hold on to things and allow this process to naturally happen. I think most people on this journey, in the beginning stages, in the middle stages, they tend to still find levels of suffering because they're trying. And if we look into scriptures and we align it with what we're sharing now, is effortlessness. We've all heard the space of peace, and God is found in effortlessness. So we need not take any effort. It's like trying to fall asleep. You can't sleep, so you try, which means you're not sleeping, so you can. So we have to just be wise enough to recognize that it is the awareness which carries us through. But we have to be open and listening and actually take directed action through the awareness that comes. And then life is a massive journey. And you will always be looked after. This is why Jesus saves you, for example. Jesus isn't going to come to life. He's not going to come and save you in such a way. Christ is a level of consciousness that's attained through letting go of concepts, removing ego, and existing in that level of peace. It's a higher plane of consciousness. And if you exist in that consciousness without any worry, any doubt, any fear, any expectations of events, then you are protected. And you're protected by the inner knowing and the truth. It's no harm, no weapon shall ever prosper against you. And these are just terminologies that have been used to mystify truth. That makes the common man think it's just a load of made up stories. but really there's significance to it. And you will find it, and you will see that, and you will continually walk through life protected, catered for, because God and the will of God and the will of truth is abundant. It's forever giving. Forever giving. Nobody has to be without. But what makes one without is their lack of faith and their lack of truth. And this whole journey that we're experiencing is purposeful to expand and evolve consciousness. This is it. So we just need to be happy, learn to find peace and experience. And whatever life puts in your way, you accept it, and you continue to be peaceful and balanced, and do in that moment what is necessary to overcome or to continue the journey. This is why it's so important to understand the subconscious, conscious mind, because you can really imprint and create at will. And this is why we share so much of this magic, the ancient occult arts, and bring it to people in a way where it can be easily digested in the modern day tongue. Because life is magic. This very moment is the magic moment. And we only have this now, here. There's no tomorrow. There's no past. There's no yesterday. You experience the idea of tomorrow in a moment of now. So now is the space that we exist. And we let go of all these concepts that take us into the past or to the future. And continually practice this, and there's peace. It's perpetual. And your peace will bring peace. Alignment with friends, family, food. And on the journey, of course, concepts arise about money. Should someone spiritual have money? Should you charge for things? This is just all ego and spiritual ego, because the ideas have been presented with inside the world or the matrix again. You really have to walk that journey of yourself. This is Solomon, the solo one. It's the solo one. It's you. You're the one. You create at will. You create with what you speak. Learn the art. Learn the technology. Build that life. Build this temple. And experience what life truly is. Because it's amazing. It is
Beautifully articulated, brother. And it is amazing. It really is. And all you have to do is realize it and just apply these principles. It really is that simple and that understood.
Yeah, while we're there, it's if someone has a desire to change the food, it's the desire which is causing the suffering. The awareness is there that you should be consuming something else, but because you're not, manifests as a desire. This is a thought form. This is a level of suffering. You either have to accept the fact that you're not doing anything about it, everything's fine and I'm going to continue like this so this thought doesn't arise and bother you, or you apply yourself to this thought and you experience where it's taken you. But this is one magic carpet ride. You have as many wishes as you desire.
Because that's like, I've experienced that for myself. Like, I remember being in a space where, I mean, even now, like, I'll be making some like roast potato or whatnot, and I'll just be thinking like, I just want to be eating like a seeded watermelon, like in the sunshine. Like, that's really what I want. It's just the fact that the abundance of fruit is not in this very moment. So it's just like, I just go to this thing that it so happens to be abundant here. For example, the starchy vegetables, things like that. What's incredible is, I mean, for example, we have like some of the best berries in the world in Nova Scotia because how acidic our soil is. The wild blueberries, raspberries, not boysenberries, sorry. There's a specific one, I haven't tried it yet, but there's a specific berry that is apparently like a super sweet. But yeah, like it's so funny how, when you speak about these things, it's like you really lose the ability to kind of articulate how much gratitude you feel, because again, it's like removing these thoughts, right? And words are just a way that we express ourselves. Really, it's about the energy. That's really
That's why the word meaning comes in, because mean in mathematics is just average. So the meaning is what the average perceive it to be, but what does it mean to you?
yeah. And something that came to me during this, during what you just said there, that beautiful flurry of words, was, so I found on the journey, and with most people, typically what wakes them up, what does it for them, what helps, like what tool has guided them to become a more spiritual person, and more connected to the divine, the infinite, God, whatever people want to call it, whatever they feel comfortable with calling it, because of the the societal pressure. I find a lot of people are very traumatized with the word God and Jesus and church and all of these things, because they've been very corrupted and they've been pounded down our throat. So we are scared of them, so we don't connect to that. So, but so I found
It's totally fine, isn't it? It's exactly where they need to be and how they need to feel. This is perfect.
exactly. So what I wanted to say is just what I noticed with everything you've just said. It really resonates to me as pure truth within myself, and I believe that most people would agree with that. And what I've found, so you speak about the true freedom is letting go of the thought and staying in the present. And something that recently I experienced was, so I've had a bit of experience with psychedelic substances. So this is something that most people find on their journey is the thing that really shoots them up, really to be elevated. And now I understand the reasoning, because it's not like these substances give you new things. They open you up and they quiet the mind, and they open you to that God consciousness, however you want to call it. Because I've had experiences with these substances that made me feel so connected and so infinite, and really opened me up to that awareness. And I believe it's because the suppression of the nervous system, it takes away these sensations and whatnot, and it just opens you up to your consciousness, what you're really operating from. And recently I had to have a realization where I don't need these substances. It's not that they're just showing you a window of what is possible. It's really just a window. And you can, like, it's like a real window. I mean, you can keep looking out the window and looking at outside, or you can actually go out and experience it for yourself, live it, get your feet in the grass, get the sun in your face, and integrating these experiences, because for some people it's what they need. It's like a shaking of their soul to open them up to what is truth, what is reality, what is the present moment.
Yeah, that's like when one spends enough time in nature, even children, lost, no mind. If you found yourself picking fruit from a tree, you're lost, no mind. Nature naturally is anti-egoic. You find yourself being more in alignment with divinity in its natural space. Naturally, these thoughts leave you. But when you're in a world of an egocentric space, everything that you see, everything that you do is always building an aspect of identity within you. Your copy characters. You start to see ideas, they start to manifest, desires manifest. And having this ability to be able to control and recognize these functions within you is such a superior skill to have. People are looking for information inside the truth movement or the spiritual community, make themselves essentially more powerful. This is ego driven because the ego is searching for power. You see, the true power lies within the recognition within the self, and how to find and compartmentalize aspects of your own internal awareness. It's like the recognition of how life is created and spontaneously original manifests, and how form is and holds its structure. And I share with our community lots, is when you're dreaming, for example, okay, before this, you ask yourself, well, what came first? Was it the chicken or was it the egg? Now, the chicken needed the egg and the egg needed the chicken. So this is an impossibility, but they're here. And when you shut your eyes and you're able to remember or to actually awaken within a dream, and you see that in a dream, you've actually identified with the body in the dream, and now that one who has the body is experiencing. You may see others. Have you experienced seeing others in your dream? Yourself? Owen?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you asked me that. I thought you were just part of your speech there. I have seen others in my dream.
So are the others there? Are they real? Or do they arise within you?
But yeah, what I've heard is people say, and I can vouch for this, it's like you cannot see, you can't see new faces in your dreams. You can only see faces that you either experience physically or at least visually. So it is something that you are projecting for sure.
So when you're experiencing this, okay, you're tripping down some stairs. You've experienced tripping down some stairs okay, in the dream, but everything's very real. So what's existing there is the awareness, and the awareness of these things arising within yourself. It's no different here. It's all from the great mind. The mind creates. So you are that which is aware of all things which arise within you. So the chicken didn't just manifest, it's a dream. But it only exists inside the mind. But what's happened is, just as we identified with the body in that mind for a brief second, when we were sleeping, we were experiencing through that body, we're experiencing through this body, but our awareness of self has diminished. We have now become aware that we are the body, and we experience life through the body, but we have forgotten our source, which is the great dreamer. So when you remember the dream, or your next dream, or if you're lucky enough to be able to wake up within the dream and alter dreams, try and alter it and experience truly, fully what it's like in that dream state, because it's no different than here. It's actually more real. And if you can learn the art of dreaming, you can experience months in one evening of sleep, and you'll know the true nature of yourself. It's incredible. This is why modern day science tries to explain physicality by saying it's predominantly empty space, because nothing physical is actually physical. So how did it come into fruition? How did this whole universe exist? Because source, consciousness itself, became aware of itself being nothing. And in that nothingness, it had a desire to create something. And from that something, all of life has manifest. And now from the great mind, it was able to create other minds through its infinite intelligence and vast expansion of consciousness. Now there's individual or individuality. Individuality is individed duality, consciousness, that then we identify with this and see through. But yet we're all from the same source or the same mind. But this is why life is only truly about expansion. It's an evolution of consciousness. So just as we are evolving in consciousness, we're seeing it evolve within the world. And this is why the screen within inside the matrix is shifting from, animal-based products, bringing an awareness to plants, because we're in an age where there is no more need for physical suffering at all. We have suffering mentally. If you look at your nan, for example, the level of consciousness that's shifted so rapidly in just 2 generations is so profound, so profound. and it's continually evolving. So our real mission here is to transcend ego, to evolve to the next level of experience, which is union between the mind, body, mind, body, and spirit, and experience instantaneous manifestations without the suffering that is of the world. When we get to know our true self, life is but a dream, and we row our boat gently down the stream. And this boat is this vessel. But when we can recognize that, all fears leave you. Ego is a choice. You can identify, create any character at will you wish to be in any given moment, but no longer being controlled by the innate desires of the mind and its chatter and its mentalization or verbalization that we hear inside ourselves. Because you ask yourself, everyone's heard the dialogue, interpreting life for them in the mind or the head or the awareness. But what is it that hears it? What is it that hears that? Is it the ears?
It's the consciousness.
So you can't be the body. This is why we say my body. We don't say me body. We say my body. Because it's not you. But this is natural within us. We say my body. But yet we believe we're the body with a brain, and everything we do is controlled by the brain, the five senses. We're miraculously here on a spinning ball. Lucky. Might be some aliens in space. This is the construct of the matrix. You don't realize your true source. You are the incredible master magician who creates within himself worlds and can have anything at will, any desire that one has when they learn the art of living, the art of truth, the art of manifestation. We focus so much on information that we never get to practice this within ourselves. You are everything you need, everything you will ever need. You are everything and nothing. And how can one's mind compartmentalize that and understand? It's not for the mind. This is for the vibration of the self. And all the channels that come off of this work and merge perfectly for yourself. This is all Templar, the master builder, for example. Jesus was a carpenter. He didn't do woodwork. He was a builder. Freemasons, master builders. They build temples without hands. This is the temple. How far do you wish to take it? Is your practice external? Because the external world is from within. Or do you turn your attention inside? And I advise, if that hasn't been done yet, just take a look at yourself. This is why language is so special, because the issue, you hear the phonics of the words, is you. Every issue you have is you. If you don't get on with your partner, you argue, you wish or you have a desire for her to change or him to change, that desire is causing suffering, separation, but the issue is you. Take a look. If your partner is affecting you, you're letting someone external to you affect this balance within. And as soon as we clear this up within ourselves, if we act perfect and give the perfect love, we receive the perfect love. There's so many dimensions to balance and to healing, and they all truly are simple. The Bible is giving and receiving. This is what life is. You give out love, you receive love.
That's the thing, brother. It's nothing but truth. What you're speaking here, and I'm have so much gratitude for that. And I know everybody watching does as well. And it's so funny because, we ask all these questions, I'm asking you about B12, fortified foods, and all of these things. And it's necessary in certain moments, of course. And of course, we want this temple that we get to enjoy. We get to move, and we get to lift, and we get to hug, and we get to experience so many things. We get to feel the feeling of our soles of our feet within the dirt of this planet, and connecting with Mother Earth, and feeling these sensations and textures on our hands, and the warmth of a loved one, all of these things, right? So it's honestly just a fun game to build muscle, to feel energy.
If you take it in that way. If it's an obsession and it causes cognitive dissonance, suffering, there's room for work, because the suffering has arisen for the work. This is the great work, like the Aleister Crowley of this world, that the modern day media labeled him the wickedest man in the world. Devil worship, all these demons, etc. within his teachings. It's all about this, what we're speaking of now. But most people don't have the eyes to interpret it properly. We have to dispel demons on a day-to-day basis. The greatest teaching of all is do nothing. Right? And that then arises so many things. But if you can stay the space that you were before things arise within you, you are enlightened. You are that which is. But the mind will naturally throw up and interpret life for you, and attention gets given to the mind, and we lose ourselves. You will never ever find suffering ever again if you stay as you were before the mind, which is immaculate, clean conception, ideas, clean from ideas, absolutely having nothing, emptiness, and walking through life without the interpretation of the mind. It's just effortless joy here, just pure happiness. You can embark on any journey, and there's other levels to your experience as well. If one has, a certain level of practice and experience with themselves, and a day-to-day task, for example, you don't like hoovering, but you have to do it. Okay. Now, the mind, if you allow it to interpret, is going to cause discomfort, separation from grace. I don't want to do it, but you're still doing it. So you have to find a level within the ground here, which is the path of least resistance. So you can actually set the body to task through intention, and then separate yourself from the body and just observe it, do the work, which is a way of not actually having to engage in the physicalness of activity, but yet observing it happen naturally without any interaction from the self. It's a miracle. It's a magical thing to do. But you have all of this function available to you. This is like the word available, or as I say it, it's avail able. To become enabled, you must be enable. And this is Cain, and this is Abel. This is left and right hemispheres. It's allegory. This is why allegory, you read allegory, is all ego. Rise. Everything is so synchronized and is a divine expression of consciousness itself. There is a way to see the connection with all things. All things here. It's limitless. But your limitations lie in the word is imitations. Your limitations are your imitations, and imitations come from mind, they come from ego, they come from the repeating cycles of the past that they say come up to haunt you. These are ghosts, these are your demons. Can you let go and not do anything? food itself, like we were speaking of in the beginning, is such a powerful thing to get you to this space. It truly is. It is. You know, I've had people who are embarking on a journey, say from alcohol. They are in Alcoholic Anonymous. They're going, you know, trying, but they're surrounding themselves with other addicts, etc. Juice fast for 21 days. Most people don't have this will or this desire or the knowledge to really apply it. But the ones that do, their lives change from that moment. And they just embarked from a depressive, anxious, suffering experience to an elevated, observing, responsive experience. And this has just begun from just shifting what we eat. But again, for the ultimate truth, it is not necessary. But to have a body that's free from disease, that functions correctly, it needs to have food that functions correctly. So if it isn't grown, it's not our food.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. And the closer we get to living food, the easier the body regenerates, restores, and brings back to balance. But you know, having the understanding of the mind and the power that lies behind the mind, because all is mind, we can override these things, but usually that comes after. So I would say the template for most people's journey is an expression of food, it's an expression of awareness. The awareness expands. They have a certain level of suffering going on because they have a desire to change the world. They want to tell people consistently that they're doing wrong and they need to do this. This is just spiritual arrogance. It's an aspect coming from heart space. You want everyone to see, but they're not ready to receive it. So then suffering's here because now you have a new desire. Your desire is not necessary to eat chocolate, crisps, cake, donuts, but it's to tell people how beautiful it is to eat this food, and everyone should do it. And then you see the chemtrails and you see false flag things. We got to be careful with our words because things can be taken off. And you have a desire to tell people or to change this world that's happening, but we don't realize the world serves this great purpose. It's an absolute necessary function that people spontaneously awaken within through the deception that exists there. And those that aren't awakened to it, they need the system. They need the system to take care of them. They need the system to look after them, to go to hospital, etc. You know? So we have to learn not to really create new negatives from the positives that we found. And we do this by letting go and continuing our journey. Because those that need us and are ready to receive this will seek us and also will come across the information when they're ready. So that desire that exists, even a desire to have no desire, causes you separation. It's such an intricate workings that exist. But for me, I wished to master myself, I wished to master the universe, and I wished to acquire all the knowledge that was necessary to do so. So my journey was an intense one from about 17 to 26, where 5 or 6 hours a day I was researching. You know, I uncovered all of the lies within the world. I experienced myself levels of suffering and desires to change it. But as I continually elevated myself, I had a newfound respect and understanding for why the world is like it is and does what it does. It's like the meaning government, you know. Mente is mind in Latin. Government means govern minds. But once your mind is no longer governed, it doesn't oppress you no more. There's no need to fight the system because the system does what it does, because it's needed to. And also we come to alignment with the great mind, which is the consciousness itself, which everything is perfect in consciousness. It's just the personality which creates judgments of good and bad. Everything is necessary here. If we fight that which is necessary, we suffer. Be at peace with everything and everyone. Spread joy and spread love, and do the best that you can do for yourself at any given moment. And if you can't, let it go.
Truth. Because I see like everything you're saying. I see examples of within my life, like I relate it back to memories and moments, and I relate it to situations I've seen and in situations that I see other people in groups and whatnot. All of these different areas of information that people find themselves in, and that's really the biggest thing. Is just things are too complicated, and this is something that I've always had a serious issue with. Again, causing suffering because I had a desire to change that. I could have just surrendered to that, but it's a part of my journey. It's part of lessons. It led me here, right? And it's so awesome to know that really the truth and the matter of the fact is we just need to simplify our life. We just need to stop thinking so much. We need to stop seeking for something so often. And just go back to what we already understand as true. Go to nature, sit in silence, ground yourself, just all of these different things, all of these different methodologies that you can do, actions you can take that just feel good. Everybody knows these things feel good. They know how good it feels to hug your mother. They know how, well, maybe not everybody, but we're all journeys, but
when they've gone, they do. It's like you don't know what you've got until it's gone, unless you're conscious and present. And if you're conscious and present, and this is why present is a gift. And why do you unwrap the box? Because a box is full of something or a thing. Then you open this box and it's freedom. This is why presence is pre-sense. And innocence is in no sense. Because you're staying as you were before the senses arise, and then interpret life or interpret the moment and feed it to you via a dialogue. See, most people don't realize that they haven't actually been experiencing life at all. They've been experiencing life through a warped perception of a mind or the person. For everyone just seeking information, it's obviously exactly where you need to be because you're there. But you're now here listening to this, and information is not going to save you. Information actually ignites and feeds ego for more power. The ego sees power in spirituality. It does. But in seeking power through spirituality, it actually is the beginning of its end. And this is the mission. This is what we're here to do. We're here to end the inner conflict. We're here to stop our own belief and personal identity interpreting life and warping it for us. So when we see our mother, for example, or we see our partner, our girlfriend, our father, anyone, most of the time we look through the mind. She's my girlfriend, I've seen her before, this is that, come on, next thing. But if you stop, take a breath, you let go of concepts, minds, and you just look. And you look intensely at the skin with the pores and the hair, the softness, the smell, the communication. All of this has come from nothing. And we don't believe in magic. We are missing this element within ourselves to truly find the magical moment. And when you sit with yourself, most people try meditation because it's something that the spiritual movement says you must do. Now, meditation is a state.
Yeah.
It is not an act or a practice. Meditation is that which you are, free from concepts. Just period. Just meditation. Has no mind popping up. You're just in this space. So if you can get yourself to a space of nothingness, and you're aware here and now that there is nothing, just a sense of nothingness, what desire would you have? You would have a very strong desire to experience. And you are in a great experience right now. To slow down, take it in. Everything that is happening now, not tomorrow, or has happened yesterday, embrace fully and give it your full attention, like you are painting a masterpiece. Because in painting your masterpiece, silence of the mind comes. Time dissolves. Hours have been spent, not been tracked. This is here for us now. We just focus our attention so strongly on what is happening now. And we give ourselves to this. And life is very vibrant here.
You can see it through the darkness, even when it seems to be so horrible. 5G towers going up. We don't know what this technology.
Whatever it is, it must be perfect, hey? It has to be, because consciousness itself is this wonderful grand manifestation. We have these beliefs that the 5G towers might have some sort of military device inside of them, or has been made from them, but maybe it's just using a small amount of technology from that, which is being used, just like we were worried about 4G and 3G. Everyone's fine, but the negativity that comes from the idea and the concept that you have about them is creating exactly the negativity that you don't want from it. So,
because, and again, it's like this invisible pressure that exists within this reality for most of us, not all, but for most, in the society we find ourselves in. But it's so interesting because, for example, like even when you come into this space, this spiritual space, it's like you feel this pressure, because I felt this myself. It's like you feel this pressure. It's like, oh, I need to be eating more fruit. I need to be meditating. I have to go out and buy this pillow to sit on and meditate and put my fingers like this and it's like all of this invisible pressure that exists. You don't even know where it comes from, but it's coming from your ego. It's because you're trying to be better than somebody else. You're trying to get ahead in some sort of way. You're using
it's conflict.
Yeah. And that's conflict, and that causes suffering. And it just makes so much sense, brother, because the amount of people that say that they're spiritual and they say that they're awakened and all of these things, a lot of them are suffering more than anybody else, because they have all this awareness, and they have the fact that they have this much awareness, but they're not aware of the conflict, the internal conflict. The amount of friction that is happening is uncanny.
The amount of people, even though it's from a good space, they're here to change the world. My purpose in life is to get you to do something different. This just isn't the case. This isn't the case. And that is where we fall trapped to our own ego that has just been reshaped. And we're still identifying with it. We're still identifying with the troubles. We're still suffering. This is why enlightenment is a powerful word within itself, because it's enlightenment mind. So if you were to lighten the mind, you should take things away from it. Yeah, and the weight of the world is actually on your mind, in your mind. And you carry this everywhere. And scripture like David and Goliath, for example, with this one stone, Goliath is the mind. Are you David? Can you slay Goliath, the dragon? These are all elements to ego. This is why ancient Chinese always had the dragon. This is the great ego. This is the great identity that we form. And we walk through life believing we are that and nothing else. But we don't realize that that which we believe we are arises within us. And us as awareness, as consciousness. And we have the ability to shape and shift and control everything. I wish mastery for everyone over their own life without any desire to change others. Because the best thing that you and I can do for this whole world is to elevate ourselves. Somebody's there saying money is the root of all evil, yet money is God manifest. Money is an incredible thing which can be utilized and used for so much good. It's pure energy. Why wouldn't you want energy? Why wouldn't you want to have enough money? Let's say Elon Musk money, which is possible for anyone if they choose to direct their energy and attention on that path. You could change the world. You could end world hunger. You can do so much. So don't look at the things which have great possibilities as a negative, because that's just the way you're interpreting them. Make yourself rich. Feed yourself well. Find your peace. Then you can change the world. When you've found all those elements of mastery, your position in this experience would be then to change the world.
I think that's the path that is revealing itself for me. That's how it feels right now. Because I'm so aware of what action needs to be taken. And I'm coming into opportunities of abundance now that I've never had before. But it's because I'm choosing.
And it's what you are.
Yeah.
Because your level of energy, the vibration attracts a frequency, an energy match. If you think depressed, you think poverty, you think poor, you just attract it. If you're going to pay a bill and you're there with a bill and you're just negative about it, pay the bill, bless the bill, and have faith and knowing. Ask the universe to return it tenfold back, because it will. It will. And especially you being 23 right now as well, having this conversation with me, having certain direction, if it resonates with you, there's nothing greater than having the knowledge at 23 that your peace and happiness is found within, and anything that you wish to create is done by yourself. It doesn't actually have to be done with these hands. It can just be done with the intention, the focus, and you've got such a great life ahead of you. And I am so grateful that we were able to have a conversation today. And I can tell just from this conversation and from seeing the things that you do that you have a great space and a great future in continually doing what you're doing right now, because it's aligned perfectly with you.
It is. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I know that is true, because that is the path that I will choose. And with that, I say we can conclude this. I think that there's infinite value within the words spoken today. And I believe that it's just the right amount of time, this reality, this illusion of time, I think we've been about 2 hours now or so. And I think that is at home, really, I just want them to take this all in with an open mind and open heart, and just know that you are so worthy of it all, because we are a part of something beautiful, and even if you don't see it right now, one day you will. And I'll let Josh, I'll let you say a closing piece, and then we'll end it there.
just everything is okay. Everything is okay. We don't want to give ourselves small compartmentalized contracts as we go through the day that we must do this and we must do that, because we have only but a moment, and in this moment we have the ability to choose. So I'd stay focused on applying yourself to this moment with the truth that you believe to be true or possibly know, and walk the path really. Be tuned into your intuition, because fortune is for tuning, and opportunities also are for tuning. Take small things of what we said today and try them, apply them, because through my experience I am only sharing. So everything I have spoken of today I have lived through and I have experienced myself, and I just wish that everyone lives within themselves happy and peaceful, and will recognize that the inner conflict that is within you at any given time is only for you to manage, and nothing external to you will fix it. No one will save you. You have to save yourself. Find the art of letting go, and you will find yourself. Have great faith. Trust in yourself. And let go. And let life guide you and be the greatest teacher. You are perfect. You are infinite. I'm very grateful for our time today. Thank you everyone for spending the time with us listening. And I hope in future we may have some questions from some viewers and we can open up again and discuss in more detail certain aspects together.
And with that all being said, bless you all, and we're sending infinite love your way. So we'll end the recording there.
Love you all.